On a cold, bleak day, the young girl Alina watches helplessly as her mother is brutally dragged away by a group of vicious soldiers. These ruthless thugs, calling themselves the Grey Wolves, are shoving unarmed Bogomil believers into wooden carts like livestock. Their purpose is appalling. They intend to burn these innocent people alive, simply to please that tyrannical ruler, King Lazar. The helpless Alina desperately cries out for her mother, but gets nothing in return, except the cold-blooded mockery and shoving of the soldiers. In her moment of despair, the low, rapid sound of galloping hooves pierces the dead silence of the day. Heavily armored Ottoman raiders descend like soldiers from heaven, instantly breaking through the enemy's defense line. The leading commander, with a blazing gaze, brandishes his sharp blade and slaughters the abusive soldiers with an overwhelming force. Forcefully pulling Alina and the innocent civilians back from the brink of death. When the trembling, abusive soldiers ask who he is, he calmly replies,
"Adaletin kılıcıyım."
Today, I'm going to tell you about an extremely hardcore, grand-scale historical war epic, the Ottoman Expedition, Sword of Justice, Turkler Geliyor, Adalet Kilici. This is by no means a simple action movie, but an epic about faith, survival, and the rebellion against tyranny. These Ottoman raiders are not war machines that kill blindly. They come carrying the supreme will of Sultan Mehmed. The commander of this unit loudly reads the Sultan's decree to the newly liberated civilians.
Sultanımız buyurdu ki, gayrı Balkanların güzel insanları boşnaklar yurtlarını terk etmek zorunda kalmayacak. Zulme uğramayacak. Dinlerini özgürce yaşayacak. Kim ki onların düşmanı olursa Sultan Mehmet Han'ın da düşmanıdır. Kim ki onların gönlünü incitirse bilsin ki beni incitmiştir. Tüm cihan bilsin ki o vakit kahrım, celalim ve dahi kılıcım zalimlere dur diyecektir.
Hope is rekindled in the civilians' eyes. They ask the raiders to convey the Bogomil's greetings to the Sultan.
Sultanına biz Bogomillerden selam söyle yiğit. Bilsin ki Cihan Fatih'ini topraklarımıza bekliyoruz.
Bekleyin. Geleceğiz.
However, true darkness is often hidden deep within seemingly impregnable castles. The scene shifts, and we arrive at the Smederevo fortress in Serbia. The ruler here, King Lazar, is plotting a spine-chilling game of power. Commander Karadzic furiously reports. Turkish raiders ambushed them halfway, killed the guards, released the prisoners, and also hijacked the gold meant for the Pope. King Lazar's ambition is immense, and he simply doesn't care whether the civilians live or die. He makes it clear to the Vatican's cardinal that he is willing to become a faithful Catholic and hand over rich treasures in exchange for the Pope's support in the war, to fight against the Turks together. In King Lazar's eyes, everything except the throne is a disposable bargaining chip. His cruelty is not only directed outward, internally he is cold-blooded to the extreme. Inside this castle, King Lazar's sister, Princess Mara, has always been treated like a prisoner. Mara once married far away to the Ottoman Empire as a hostage for the sake of her country's peace, and she deeply knows the disasters brought by war. During a fierce internal family conflict, King Lazar's mother originally planned to pass the throne to her blind eldest son to maintain a fragile peace. King Lazar suddenly lashed out, nonchalantly admitting to poisoning his mother's food, making everyone shudder with fear.
Sevgili anneciğim, eğer beni takip ettirdiğin kadar aşçılarını takip ettirseydin şimdi zehirlenmemiş olacaktın.
Ne diyorsun sen?
Seni zehirledim anne, seni zehirledim. Sırbistan'ın aydınlık geleceği için seni zehirledim.
His mother fell to the ground, struggling in agony, while King Lazar coldly proclaimed that he did this so Serbia could have a bright future. Power truly is a deadly poison. It can instantly swallow a person's last shred of humanity, turning even the mother who gave birth to and raised them into a political pawn. And King Lazar ruthlessly ordered his men to throw Mara into a dark and damp dungeon. Meanwhile, on the other side in the Ottoman camp, commanders Konaralp and Sungur know that this mad bull, King Lazar, will sooner or later launch a more insane counterattack. They take a solemn oath to penetrate deep into King Lazar's lair and rip off this tyrant's head. But the cruelty of war always exceeds human imagination. King Lazar is far more cunning than they thought. He planted a spy, Abdullah Pasha, right next to the Ottoman Sultan. Through the spy's intelligence, King Lazar grasped the raiders' movement route in advance. As the raiders traverse the dense forest of Vrnovo Oko, the long-ambushed Serbian army suddenly launches a fierce attack. The sky full of arrows acts like the Grim Reaper's scythe, instantly tearing apart the raiders' formation. The raiders draw their sharp blades and engage in desperate hand-to-hand combat with the enemy. This ambush is fought extremely brutally, with blood dyeing the entire forest red. Ultimately, heavily outnumbered, Konaralp and the few surviving brothers are tightly surrounded and reduced to King Lazar's prisoners. They are roughly escorted into the castle's dungeon, suffering inhuman torture. During this bloody battle, the heroic Sungur is severely wounded but fights his way out, carving a path of blood. He falls completely unconscious in the forest, his life hanging in the balance. Fortunately, Alina's falcon discovers him. Risking her life, Alina rescues the dying Sungur back to her hideout and brings in helpers to treat his shocking wounds. During Sungur's difficult recovery period, the two share an extremely profound conversation. Looking at this man covered in scars, Alina confusedly asks him why he chose to become a raider who faces death at any moment. Sungur's eyes become incredibly deep, and he slowly recounts the indelible, sorrowful memory in his heart.
Babamı tarumar ettikleri vakit. Kardeşlerimi köle olarak aldıkları vakit. Anamın canına gözlerimin önünde kıydıkları vakit. Haçlılar obamızı bastı. Herkes şehit oldu.
Sungur tells Alina that he became a raider absolutely not for pure slaughter or to accumulate wealth for the Sultan, but to establish a world order. He wants to be the hope for all the oppressed. He wants to use the sword in his hand to ensure that no child in this world will ever be forced to separate from their mother again, letting everyone possess the dignity of being born human. At this moment, you can truly understand this group of warriors. They bear deep suffering, yet they turn that suffering into the strongest shield to protect the weak. As soon as his injuries improve slightly, Sungur immediately starts planning a counterattack. He rallies his surviving raider brothers and those Bogomil civilians who are willing to fight for freedom. Facing everyone's fear of King Lazar's massive army, Sungur appears exceptionally calm. He tells the crowd that failure is just a whip for heroes, and war is never won by numbers alone. Many great battles have been won relying on brilliant stratagems. To motivate everyone, Sungur tells the story of David and Goliath.
Bilirsiniz Calut'un çelikten ordusunu sapan taşıyla deviren Hazreti Davut'un hikayesini. Ne olmuştu o gün? Zırhlı zalim eşkıya muhteşem silahıyla sahneye çıkmıştı. Karşısına da tek silahı sapan taşı olan Hazreti Davut çıkmıştı. Ne yaptı Hazreti Davut? Zırhlı düşmanın zafiyetini buldu. Koca zırhtaki zafiyet noktası işte tam burasıydı. Calut karşısındaki Davut'u küçümseyip eğlenmeye çalışırken Davut çoktan çekmişti sapan taşını. Taş Calut'un gırtlağını delip o koca gövdeyi yere serince tarihe sadece bir hikaye kalmadı. Düşünmesini bilenlere koca bir destan kaldı.
Looking at the crowd with resolute eyes, Sungur says,
Biz de Davut'un Calut'u yendiği gibi Lazar'ın kalesini başına yıkarız.
Sungur astutely points out that although King Lazar is brutal, he has an extremely fatal weakness, his arrogance, as well as his treasured daughter, Princess Maria. Coincidentally, Princess Maria will be returning to Serbia in 2 days. An incredibly bold and dangerous infiltration plan takes shape in Sungur's mind. He leads his men to stage a fake attack on Princess Maria halfway, and personally steps in as the hero saving the damsel in distress. Sungur disguises himself as Riccardo Mancini, a knight of the Knights of Rhodes, while a female companion of his pretends to be his sister, Teresa. King Lazar, upon learning that his daughter was saved by a valiant knight, is naturally overjoyed. Not only does he implicitly trust Riccardo, but he also very respectfully invites them into the Smederevo fortress, treating them as honored guests. After entering the castle, Sungur immediately begins a psychological war. He deliberately leaks a top-secret intelligence capable of changing the tide of war to King Lazar.
Bildiklerini anlat
Oraya sefer düzenliyor. Bir müddet derin nefes alabilirsiniz. Türkler buraya gelmeyecek.
Hearing this news, the huge stone hanging in King Lazar's heart finally drops. He arrogantly believes that the Turks simply don't dare to provoke him, and his vigilance instantly drops to the freezing point. But King Lazar is naturally suspicious, and he decides to give this newly arrived knight a test. King Lazar orders his men to bring out the heavily scarred raider commander, Konaralp. He tosses a sharp blade to Sungur, now disguised as Ricardo, demanding that he personally kill this enemy leader to prove his loyalty and courage. This is the most suffocating moment of the entire film. Sungur tightly grips the sword, his eyes suppressing the agony and fury that are about to erupt. Standing before him is his brother, who has braved life and death with him, and is as close as family. If he does not strike, all disguises will be instantly seen through, the entire rescue plan will completely collapse, and everyone will die without a burial place. But Konaralp looks at Sungur without the slightest fear or retreat. He loudly recites the Shahada, Islamic creed, thereby passing an extremely firm belief to Sungur.
Ölsem de gam yemem gari. Biz devletin uğrunda feda edilenler kadar devlet olduğuna inanırız. Biz kendimizi feda etmek için çıktık yola. Cihan, nizam-ı aleme kavuşsun, devletimizin itibarı ebed müddet yaşasın diyor. Hadi. Hadi biter! Bitir şu işi!
In immense grief, Sungur endures his bleeding heart and plays along to complete this incredibly cruel charade. Konaralp valiantly embraces martyrdom, while Sungur completely wins King Lazar's trust. With trust established, the gears of revenge start spinning rapidly. To celebrate his daughter's safe return and the impending peace, King Lazar decides to host a grand banquet inside the castle. This is exactly the perfect opportunity Sungur has been waiting so hard for. Alina, disguised as Teresa, uses the excuse of wanting to prepare special food for her brother to quietly sneak into the heavily guarded kitchen. In the kitchen, Alina must remain calm at all times. While dealing with the cooks, she nervously looks for a chance to strike. Finally, taking advantage of everyone's inattention, she pours an entire bottle of deadly poison into a large pot of food about to be served to all the soldiers. Night falls. The castle courtyard is brightly lit, and cheerful music masks the impending storm of blood. King Lazar raises his wine glass at the banquet and loudly announces to his people that because of the good news brought by this brave knight,
Benim güzel ve asil halkım, bu gece burada eğlenebiliyorsak bu şövalye sayesindedir. Ve kızımın da hayatını kurtaran şövalyedir. Bana çok güzel haberler getirdi. Artık Türkler Kral Lazar'a saldıramayacak.
to push the atmosphere to a climax, King Lazar maliciously orders his men to drag all the remaining raider prisoners from the dungeon to the center of the courtyard. He wants to turn this place into a cruel, ancient Roman arena and use the enemy's blood to add to the fun. However, King Lazar's eyes suddenly turn exceedingly sinister. He looks coldly at Sungur, the smile at the corners of his mouth gradually twisting. He loudly declares that he had already caught those rats trying to escape and already knows that someone poisoned the soldiers' food. Immediately after, King Lazar's subordinates bring out Alina, whose hands are tied. King Lazar glares fixedly at the so-called knight in front of him, viciously shouting out his real name.
Oyun bitti Sungur.
The disguise is completely torn apart, and the atmosphere instantly drops to the freezing point. King Lazar thinks he is in control of the whole situation. He arrogantly mocks the Turks' stupidity, questioning Sungur if he thought just a few of them could overthrow the entire castle. Just at the moment, King Lazar orders the on-the-spot execution of Sungur and the others. Those raider brothers who stayed inside the city as backup rush toward King Lazar like a burst dam. An extremely brutal melee instantly erupts in the courtyard. Sungur, like a lion let out of its cage, takes on 10 men at once, frantically charging and killing through the crowd. Every one of his strikes carries a tribute to Konaralp, carrying fury against tyranny. The castle is thrown into total chaos, and King Lazar's army quickly collapses under the dual blows of the raiders' fierce offensive and the poison. Keeping his promise, Sungur rescues Princess Mara and Alina amid the fierce battle, handing them over to his brothers to be escorted safely away. The tide has turned, and the once insufferably arrogant King Lazar finally feels bone-chilling terror. He is pressed step by Sungur, ultimately left with no way to retreat. This tyrant, who was once arrogant beyond measure and could even poison his own birth mother, is now like a stray dog wagging its tail, begging for mercy. He looks at Sungur in terror, desperately begging for mercy.
Teslim oluyorum. Bak, bütün bu kale, topraklarım, hazinelerim hepsi senin olsun. Beni bağışla. Bağışla. Osmanlı'ya olan bütün vergi borçlarımı da ödeyeceğim. Bunları Sultan Mehmet'e ganimet olarak götürürsün.
But Sungur's eyes are so cold that they lack even a trace of warmth. He looks at King Lazar, his voice deep and highly oppressive.
Sultanın o kadar çok ganimeti var ki artık hazinesinde koyacak yeri kalmadı. Ancak senin kelleni gördüğü vakit çok sevinecektir.
As soon as the words fall, Sungur gives King Lazar no chance to justify himself. The sharp blade in his hand turns into a ruthless, cold gleam, decisively chopping off this tyrant's head. Blood spurts out, declaring the complete end of the dark rule at the Smederevo fortress. After the flames of war subside, Sungur does not declare himself king and dominate in this castle. He brings the frightened Princess Maria before the throne. As the representative of Sultan Mehmed, Sungur officially crowns Maria as the new queen of Serbia. But at the same time, he leaves behind an extremely stern warning.
Verginizi ödeyesiniz. Boşnak bogomillere ilişmeyesiniz. Eğer sadık kalmazsanız bu kaleyi başınıza yıkarız.
The end of the film features an extremely solemn, stirring, and expansive scene. Sungur leads the surviving raiders as they mount their war horses, facing the rising morning sun, and slowly leave this blood-baptized castle. The air echoes with their battle song, full of wildness and faith. This group of warriors, known as the Sword of Justice, in order to build the world order in their hearts, once again embarks on an unknown journey. This movie has no flashy magic special effects, only visceral, fist-to-flesh combat, cold and profound political maneuvering, and those faiths forged in blood. It makes us truly feel that in that dark era where barbarism and civilization intertwined, what could truly pierce the darkness was by no means a more powerful tyranny, but the light of conviction from those willing to sacrifice themselves to protect the weak. Which moment of Sungur moved you the most in this contest of wisdom and force? Was it his forbearance in the dungeon facing his comrade's sacrifice, or his absolute resolve when he finally swung down the sword of justice? Welcome to leave your thoughts in the comments section, and let's discuss it together.